Check. Parry is bad for the heart.
Parry's bad for your cholesterol.
Ooh, this is a good question.
Yeah.
You can only parry 3 times in your life. And if you parry a 4th time, you die. So you have to choose your parries really, really carefully.
That
like,
fourth
what
one
do
is
you
protect
parry?
your loved ones.
Wow.
Yes! That's a good one.
This is like the opposite of a genie.
Yeah, when I said that embarrassing thing in high school that one time, I wish I could have parried my own voice. That type of thing. We can start with this. That's a really good opening.
Yeah, you guys keep going. I'm going to put this stuff on. That's the beginning. TripleKO. Got to give a big shout out to the sponsor of today's video, which is Honey, and it's the easiest way to save when shopping online on your desktop or mobile app. For any of you guys that do a lot of online shopping, how often do you do it? How frequently are you looking for coupon codes or discounts? And do you feel like you have any of those ready to go during checkout? Thanks to Honey, manually shopping for coupon codes is a thing of the past, and it's a free shopping tool that scours the internet for promo codes and applies the best one and applies it to your cart. I'm fairly sure some of you guys have had some situations where you buy something and you're hoping you have a coupon code. For some reason, Justin always seems like he's looking for cooking equipment of some kind.
Yeah.
Well, I bought a crock pot actually, and I would say I think I saved around $29.65 exactly, which is pretty darn good. And then now my mother-in-law asked me, hey, can you go, use Honey and look up for steam cookers? So that is my next mission, is to buy a steam cooker with a good amount of savings.
Steam cooker and crock pot. Two things that I understand what a steam cooker does, but I still have no idea what a crock pot does. Again, Honey doesn't work just on desktop. It also works on your iPhone. You can activate it on Safari or your iPhone and save on the go. And if you guys don't already have Honey, you can be straight up missing out. And by getting it, you're going to be doing us a huge favor and supporting the show. We usually don't recommend any stuff that we don't use, and this stuff has saved all of us a little bit of money here and there, and a lot of money in some situations. So go get Honey for free on joinhoney.com/TKO. That's joinhoney.com/TKO.
Justin, did you want to parry that guy that was like, "Hey, come to North Virginia with me"?
I mean, I feel like if we're talking about parry, you're the one that's telling me, "Oh, you should have the parry in your background," and I'm like, you know what? Just because Matt wants it, I want to have it. But now I'm like, but because the camera's in front of me, I can see it, so I don't even have to look back. I could just see.
Oh, that's true.
Haunting me.
I didn't think of it.
So hi everybody, welcome to TripleKO. We're knee deep in topic this week because Street Fighter 6 has gotten a ridiculous amount of news, and the results of that news, what people are saying about it, and it's caused some interesting topics that I feel like we kind of jumped into what could be our topic this week. I'm joined once again, of course, by Justin Wong and Matthew McMusclehead, and we're here trying to figure out what this game's going to play like, how it feel, what it do, and is it really the third strike is what counts, apparently. So
yeah, I think it's just one of those things that there's a lot of hot topics where we talked about it last time, where this game has a little of everything from every Street Fighter game ever made.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think because of that, there's a lot of questions about, like, I think the most important one is like, oh, parries are back?
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's a 50-50. Like, left side is like, I hate parries. Right side is, I love parries.
Yeah, it's honestly one of the most polarizing mechanics, I would argue, in all of Capcom fighting games, at least, just because I wasn't super aware and prepared around that time frame of all the other things, because I was 100% one of those people that is like, oh, we're in the fighting game dark age, in the mid 2000s, even though there was a lot of other stuff that I was playing, but we're into the dark age, man. It's never gonna get out of here. But around that time frame, yeah, there was like so many people that were super hardcore and committed to CVS2, Marvel 2, and like Third Strike, where they just were so much of the fighting game community for a very big chunk of time. And of course, everyone would say the same thing about Street Fighter 3, that's not a Street Fighter game. That's a completely different game. It's not Street Fighter.
Why is there so many freaks?
Yeah.
Street Fighter has never had freaks before.
Where's Guile? Where's Nash?
Where's my green guy?
How come there's like a fusion, like a Pokemon fusion with like Dhalsim and Blanca combined into one?
Yeah.
To be fair, that's what everyone would actually say that. And I think in old copies of EGM, when they're trying to describe Street Fighter 3, like the first look at it, I remember that issue really well of EGM. It was like triple large. Like it was a massive tome, and like it had really funky, not official art of the characters on the front. And it would say in the descriptions, like, Necro seems to be a weird fusion of Dhalsim and Blanca.
Exactly.
Like the only thing that makes him Blanca is electricity. Like that's it.
And that was the funny impression from Street Fighter, like way back in the day, because there's a lot of big points of argument of, well, just to give everyone some clarification, Nakayama and I think Matsumoto-san are like the two big lead guys. These are the same guys that we see at the beginning of the Capcom Directs, like the Street Fighter Directs that sort of helm those broadcasts. And they seem to be, yes, like dudes at the top of Street Fighter 6, and they've even directly mentioned like the spirit and energy and like Third Strike, right? They specifically call out Third Strike as like a very big influential point in game for Street Fighter 6. And it's obvious, right? The fact that we're going back to the streets, there's a lot of graffiti, it's a very urban style game, like all the kind of stuff that gave Street Fighter the most identity it kind of had, gameplay wise as well, was back with like Street Fighter 3 series, and especially Third Strike. But a lot of people sort of bring some interesting points to mind where it's like, you're a Third Strike diehard or you're really not, because it's the most polarizing Street Fighter game of them all, where the parry can really lead an audience to one direction or the other. And the fact that the Street Fighter 3 series did financially really terrible. So almost burying Street Fighter.
It was a massive disaster.
Yeah.
Because when everyone thinks Third Strike, they're like, "Oh yeah, awesome, great, the Third Strike." Everyone loves Third Strike.
Two games before that, dude.
2 games before that, and they were ludicrously expensive, like the CPS3 board and all that. You have to put that into consideration. And a topic I usually just wind up talking about a lot is at the same time, like 90, 96, 97, 98, Capcom was blowing up elsewhere, like console games like Resident Evil and Dino Crisis and stuff. Resident Evil specifically, we're rolling in money over here, and they look at arcade profits. I think it was literally a Capcom USA guy at the time said, the head of Capcom at the time was like, "I don't understand. Like, why is arcade doing so poorly?" Well, arcade was doing poorly everywhere. And a lot of companies, like even Midway, were like, "Yeah, let's start dipping our toes into consoles," because the PlayStation was such a big, like, mass market thing. Like, more people were buying that than like, any Sega Saturn fans, like mainstream, like it was the Wii of its day.
Yeah.
And I know that's weird to say, but it sold like 100 million consoles. So like Capcom, whenever they look back, was like 97 was the year, man. Even though the like other fighting games released in 97 by Capcom were classics, they were cheap to make. Like X-Men versus Street Fighter was cheap because Marvel was also going bankrupt.
Yeah.
So they just gave the license away to Capcom.
They didn't spend a lot of money on getting all those Marvel characters, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Do you know how much Marvel made on Blade, the first Blade movie?
Oh, I've heard this figure. It's ridiculous. And it was just the licensing fee of like using the character, and it was something like 10 grand.
What? That's it?
Yeah, that was it.
Wow.
They were that desperate.
Yeah, like anything they would sell. Like I think even X-Men, they were like, well, we might make money on this, we might not, who knows? And when X-Men released in 2000, it was like the big thing. And after that, like, Marvel increasingly more and more, like if you want the Marvel license, you're gonna have to pay out the nose. And like sometimes it's even a miracle that Ultimate, like just Marvel versus Capcom 3 even happened, like became a thing. Yeah,
and
like,
I remember hearing a very similar story as well for like Spider-Man. When they gave Spider-Man rights to Sony, where like Blade at the time was a relatively like minor character, somebody that you might be introduced to Blade by watching the movie, right? But Spider-Man was Spider-Man, so that one was one they definitely were like, okay, so this character has like an identity that is at least world renowned, and everyone kind of knows who Spider-Man is. But even in that regard, there was some story I remember hearing about Marvel made about like 50 grand from the Spider-Man pass over to Sony, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then the movies went on to be huge or something like that.
So, based off what you're saying is this like kind of the flowchart of Marvel movies to come? Because like they just take all these unpopular characters that you probably never heard of as a kid, unless you're like really into comics, make them famous in movies,
Make them
and
cool.
then make them cool, and then now charge like so much money to get IP rights for like video games.
Yes.
I mean, at the same time, it's like the Marvel video games. It's like way like held closely to the chest compared to like 2009, 2010, when like Sega was putting out 6 or 7 Marvel games. Like they're putting out Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, and all this stuff. And now it's like Marvel has their Marvel Games division, which is headed up by I forget his name, but like he's the one that is kind of overseeing a lot of the Marvel video games. And now it's just like Sony, Spider-Man, their mobile stuff, and occasionally like a really weird thing like Ultimate Alliance 3 or Marvel Midnight Suns. And I don't know about you guys, but aside from re-releasing Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and the classic Capcom and Marvel team-ups, it's like I don't see Capcom ever teaming up with them again to make a AAA new thing.
It seems like a very hard ask nowadays.
Yeah.
And
but,
even to echo what you're saying about Marvel 3, even back in like 2011 when Avengers wasn't even technically out yet, I don't think.
I think that was like 2012 or something.
Very
it was
close
like a year
to being
later.
out. It was like leading up to it, right? Even around that time frame before their huge establishment, like there was no Marvel Games division, so you had to deal with Marvel directly. And I can tell you someone personally that had to do that on Ultimate Marvel 3, like assist me when we were brought on from Capcom, and having to suffice to their demands about what we had to do in the show or not do in the show. They were still super touchy, super hands-on. Like everything had to go through them, and then everything had to get changed when they had something to talk about. And you can only imagine in the game, and I would hear from the actual Capcom devs how it was an absolute fucking nightmare to get Doctor Strange to do the things that they wanted him to do in the game, and to do them the way they really wanted him to do them. Like somebody on the Marvel squad was such a huge Strange weeb that they just had to be this. His fingernails have to cross in a very specific way, type of thing.
I mean, he was super cool in the game. When you actually think about the designs compared to other characters, they like put the extra mile for Doctor Strange in Ultimate Marvel 3.
To be fair, all of us have our characters where if we were just put in a position of power, Max would be like, listen, Siegfried's scarf has to, and then Justin would be like, listen, like Chun-Li needs to, and me, I'll be like, listen, Bullseye from Biofreaks needs to look like this, you know. we all have our characters where I can imagine if you were put in that like high of a power level, you would kind of be a pain in the ass
sitting here
too.
Standing in a room, slamming the desk, screaming at people, and a wide shot pans out. He's there alone. He's like, but back on Third Strike though, I just find it like I never really thought about it that hard. Sometimes when I think about Street Fighter 3, I think of hip hop all over the place. But it really wasn't. No. It's like you think back with the detail. I'm like, no, it was just in Third Strike. Like New Generation and Second Impact were just kind of like street. Yeah, little tiny bits. Alex's stage in New Gen is just a Street Fighter 6 stage, you know?
Mm-hmm. It really is.
Yeah, I think the hip hop thing was definitely just kind of a more Third Strike because playing just New Gen and Second Impact, they obviously look different compared to like Alpha and Street Fighter 2. But I would say during that time frame before like they polished up like the parry mechanics, it was just a regular Street Fighter game.
It was
until Third Strike. Then Third Strike, once they polished the parries and everything, it became much a different game all of a sudden.
They were pretty much unpopular Street Fighter games, right? Like
yes,
even Second Impact was a much better game. It's like Second Impact is the why the hell would you be playing New Gen sort of game. And then Third Strike was like a completely different game. It felt different. It looked different. Capcom around this time frame did this for almost all of its franchises, where they would drop 2 titles, and then they would have very minor differences between the two, but they would feel like sort of unique. And then the third title they would drop would just be so dramatically, and these are all in the same scope, right? These are just like Vampire Savior, right? Darkstalkers 1, Darkstalkers Revenge, and then Vampire Savior. Damn, that Vampire Savior game is so much different. X-Men versus Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter, a lot of crossover and a lot of overlap. And then Marvel versus Capcom, it's like, whoa, like holy shit. And the same thing applies to Alpha, where Alpha 3 is like a very much a different game than the previous 2. The same exact thing happened to Third Strike, where they're just like, oh, completely new direction, change the gameplay completely, let's go for something bold and crazy.
Yeah, and I think the crazy part about the just thinking about from the competitive side, the Second Impact players, like the top players of Second Impact and the community, they just quit Third Strike. They never fully transitioned to Third Strike because it was like,
I heard the same
this
thing.
this is not the game that I used to play anymore. It's not. It's just so different, and it just took away their Street Fighter 3 essence from their perspective, and they just moved on to like maybe playing like Alpha, or like moving to actually finally playing Street Fighter 4 when the game finally launched.
Bloodstorm.
in my experience at the arcade I went to, which was Family Fun, which was a relatively like premium Southern California like fighting game like gathering, they had Second Impact cabinets for a long time. And a lot of Third Strike cabs, right? There was some Third Strike Central for the Valley. But believe it or not, in a couple of Second Impact cabs they always had the consistent people that were playing. And some of them did dip over to Third Strike because people would just be like too busy waiting for Third Strike, and they would play Second Impact while waiting. But there would be a lot of people that would jam Second Impact for quite a long time until they just eventually got rid of the cabinets,
I've never seen Second Impact cabinet in like real life,
really?
especially in the day. I saw New Generation like twice. I played it once, and then I saw Third Strike like everywhere, but well after it's, like 2000 or later and stuff like that. But I never saw Second Impact. I didn't even know Second Impact existed until like when Third Strike was out. They're like, oh, this is the third revision. I'm like, what? When?
Yeah.
And
where's the second one?
Where's the second one? It's really funny that you mentioned Alpha, because Alpha's the biggest. Alpha, it's like round 1 fight, and then Alpha 2, it's like round 2 fight, and then Alpha 3, it's like fists of God.
Yeah, they just go in.
They go
Alpha 3.
Can you
really
claim
hard.
your fury? Alpha 3 fight! Like, Jesus Christ.
But that's almost really smart, because by the third revision, you should be going crazy anyway, just to make it seem new. But Justin, that your point competitively is really like interesting to me, because it's like those players that were like, this isn't Street Fighter 3 anymore. It's like, they're not wrong.
They're not.
But at the same time, like for mainstream people, it's like more people played Third Strike. Maybe not when it released, though.
No, it definitely did not, because even at Evo, before it was called Evo, it was called Battle of the Bay. They ran Third Strike on B5, right? That was the last B series, and it just did terrible. Because of that, in Evo 2002, their first Evo, they didn't have Third Strike as a tournament whatsoever. Instead, they had a USA versus Japan exhibition, so they could say they have a Street Fighter 3 at their tournament. And because Japan was playing a completely different game than everyone else, and what I mean by that in terms of the meta, that's when Third Strike became popular back in the arcades because of the competitive, because of the things that they were doing.
Yeah,
it was
opened up
insane.
the game.
Yeah, they definitely did.
And it's not like unheard of where a game that's kind of unpopular release, like as long as there's like a small community that's like figuring things out, like the game can be played like this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure. Is there another example of a game that, aside from Third Strike, that having that kind of like research? Oh, is it what then?
Oh yeah. I wonder if Justin would say the same thing I would. Let's say it on 3. Let's see if it's at the same a game where it's like suddenly Japan has figured something out and it's opened up and everyone's going crazy.
But there's just so many. Oh my God, there's so many.
Okay, I'll just say the one that immediately pops in my head is CVS2. Because
really,
I was thinking Vampire Saviors.
Real? Okay, I'm curious to hear that story. But yeah, CVS2 at tournament, they waited till a big Japanese major, which was called Super Battle Opera. And when everyone was competing at the highest level, some players, I forget who, showed up and started roll canceling and applying invincibility to all special attacks. And people are like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what is happening? Like, what is happening? People thought the game was broken or something like that. And then it caught on, went overseas, roll canceling became like the craze, opened up the whole game, everything changed.
The crazy part about when you're saying that, So what I heard from like people in Japan was that Boss, the best CVS2 player of all time,
Still streams.
He still streams
Really?
CVS2 and runs tournaments for it. He tested this game before it came out. He found out road canceling and kept it a secret.
He literally saved it for nationals shit.
Yeah, he saved it for nationals, and then he just took it over and be like, yeah, it's cool. So he didn't like report it or anything, because if you did report it, they probably would have patched it out, which they did in like the future titles of GameCube and the original Xbox version. But that was pretty funny when I heard that story.
That's such a funny note. I'm curious to hear the other story you're thinking of, Justin. But the idea that like, would devs back in the day have like, balanced Marvel 2 or toned down Chun-Li and Third Striker like Yoon, or would they have taken away Urian's Unblockable? And the answer is yes. That 100% they would. Like in several interviews with like the lead combat designer of all of these games, which was all the same dude, he said that they just didn't have the access to do it, and they weren't making these games to be playing competitively. They would just put stuff in because it's fun. So when it would be horribly unbalanced or something like that, or some weird crazy thing would happen, they're just like, okay, whatever. I mean, if they had an opportunity to fix it, would they? And the answer is actually yes, because Capcom versus SNK 2 EO exists. And that has not a ton of revisions, but it removes roll canceling, and I think it slightly nerfs Sagat as well. I think.
I think the damage got toned down by specific like top tier characters for sure, and then they added the whole EX groove where you could customize for other people.
Oh, and they buffed P groove in that version.
P groove can super cancel.
Yep, they give it the third strike like super special to super cancel. So they changed the game, but nobody liked it.
Yeah. So the game I was thinking about because Japan plays everything, right? It's to me it was Vampire Saviors, just because of like one, like you said, a lot of people don't really play Vampire Saviors or didn't really care too much about it. But I think once people saw like Japan and like even like the top players that we know from Japan, like Daigo, Sako, Heitani, Nuki, all these guys, they were all professional Vampire Savior top players. And then from there, it just got this resurgence of people playing Vampire Savior in arcade. It actually never made it to Evo, unfortunately. But even to this day, that's a huge community that plays Vampire Saviors. They still run their monthly events. They still do Column Breaker every year. So, I mean, and now they have they waited this long, and now Capcom announced a $7,000 Vampire Savior tournament, so it's their time to shine. So it's gonna be pretty cool to actually finally see like a big tournament hosted by Capcom for Vampire Saviors, and maybe even see people from Japan fly over to try to win this money as well too.
I think it's one of the biggest payouts for Vampire Savior ever.
Yeah, I think it's probably the biggest ever.
Yeah,
I'd imagine so. Like a couple of when Third Strike Online Edition was not ready to be released at all. Like that big trailer with all like the super hype hip hop remix song and all that. This was like months before that. My wife was actually working at a testing lab, and they had Third Strike Online. She was testing it. Ooh. And when she told me, it's like, oh yeah, there was like a Third Strike Street Fighter game in test. I was like, really? Like what like, is it the online edition that's coming out? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, no, tell me, is there glitches? Is there advantages? What can I use here? It's like, no, not, I don't know. I'm the pre-certification tester, which meant she's just testing saving and loading, like logo stuff, not
functionality.
Like not the functionality of how the game plays, or if there's bugs within the fighting, the moment to moment fighting, just the other stuff. And I was like, well, then what good are you? You can't tell me anything.
She's like, the menus work, okay?
You could turn up the volume on BGM, okay?
And the same thing with Mortal Kombat X. Well before Mortal Kombat X was even announced to exist, she's like, oh, there's a new Mortal Kombat game at my work. I'm like, what is it? What are you? She's like, who's in it? She's like, Scorpion. I'm like, that doesn't help.
We already know he's going to be in the game.
Yes, I think they learned something after that. Like, never have a mainline game like after Mortal Kombat 3. Never have a mainline game that doesn't have Scorpion or Sub-Zero.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you have to have at least one or both. But do we want to talk about game faces? Is that this time now?
Yeah, because there's a few other topics that are interesting to jump into as far as the impressions of mechanics that have had on the competitive community and the way certain like the Japanese players and the way some people are feeling about how Street Fighter 6's mechanics are. But yeah, talking about what I like to call the wonderful fluff that is completely unnecessary is the crazy face trailer that came out from Capcom. So good, right? Like so stuff like that I feel like has been missing from Capcom fighting games for a long time.
Yeah, I think the coolest part is that because we're in the whole era of memes, people are just going crazy with the memes with that trailer, and it's just causing so much buzz and more people to know about this game that it actually does exist.
Yeah.
Let's just say that the Street Fighter 6 team in Japan just came up with this. Like, oh, how about this? Yeah. And they do it. And I bet you Capcom USA guys were like, oh, yeah. Oh, my God, the memes. Like, that's what they want, right? Because like Street Fighter 6 was like re-trending, or like, you know, people's timelines were filled up with these fucking faces just making their dumb expressions. And they're so like, good. you know that the Twitter marketing guys are like, oh my God, this is so good. This is exactly what we wanted.
And
that,
that part about it was the most fascinating to me, because I just made a video on this, but it's the idea that somebody in that dev team, right, was like, what if we have like the ability for players to make their own faces towards each other, like goofy or interesting or otherwise. And then it feels like old Capcom from like, you know, the mid 2010s and stuff would have been like, well, do we have any metrics on that? Right. Do we have any information, or do we have any data we could pull from Sony or Xbox about how much budget we could spend on this and how much will it make us back? Like that feels like the way it would have been back in the day. But now it's a lot more like the way that the impression is, it's a lot like more the way the old games were, where a lot of people ask like, why did you guys make Street Fighter 3 Third Strike? Like eventually, like if the first two games didn't make that much money, how the hell did you have any budget to do another one? Because the company was functionally way different. And they were just like, oh, just because we wanted to. Yeah. Like that was it. Like they just had like a blanket budget or something, and they just put it to whatever. And even though the first two games made them nearly nothing, they were just, oh, we had a lot of really good ideas. We saw a bunch of stuff we could fix and do, and we had some new stuff we wanted to do. So we just had to do it. Like, and that's what it feels like. Like they just had an idea and they just did it.
Yeah, it's just like they're having a lot of fun. I think that's the best part about it.
Devs need to have fun.
I think a lot of it came from once the HD like generation of consoles came about. It's like a lot of companies went out of business because like budgets were skyrocketing. How do we account for this? It took like at least 5-7 years for everyone to readjust and things to get cheaper to make. So Capcom, like many companies at the time, was like, I don't know, what about the metrics on this? Like, can we really afford this? Let's not have that, because that is fluff. Like, but at the same time, no one wants to look at a loading screen for like 10 seconds. So do you know what we can do instead? Have people make silly faces during that 10-second load.
Because during that load, we had to account for the PS4 version of the game as well. A lot of people are all like, man, I can't even think how long this loading this is going to be on PS4, because you select your character, they walk through a garage, and then they have their WWE walkout with each other, and they're pointing and laughing.
Dude,
I think that's all going to be skippable. Personally, I think the only thing that's actually the loading screen is when you see their faces, you know?
Mm-hmm. That new loading screen at the garage and the WWE promo is like, it's been a good minute since I've been hyped for a fighting game.
My God,
when that has feeling. That much style and feeling, just that song, and just like all the Mad Gear guys just getting hype, just hype Mad Gear guys. Like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And just everything about that is perfect.
And the crazy part, it has its own, they have their own stages. They don't just walk out on a general stage.
I wanted to ask about that. So if you're in the like Asian looking like Sakura Blossom stage, like, is there video of that? Or is that like
it's in the very first video when the very first big gameplay trailer with the World Tour stuff, and you see like Jamie and Luke walking out, and they're on like the Mad Gear sort of stage. It's just cut up, and Ryu and Chun are on the Japanese like Cherry Blossom stage, but there's nobody in the background because they're actually alone out there. So there is a walkout still.
Wait, so if Luke is in the Sakura Blossom stage, does he still point at no one?
I think so.
That'd be so funny.
I don't know why he wouldn't.
No. Luke has to have his coach there or something, like a wingman or something.
There's a cat.
Just like just this hype guy just behind him. That was really cool because that's something I've been wondering about the game face. Does it take place in Metro City? So that's like you go out of the garage and go into the stage that's outside, or does it vary per stage? Because now we've seen like another character got revealed like just today before recording, and I'm like, do people point at the like the jet fighters that are on this battle cruiser that they're on?
I think the jet salutes them. Like
the jet
pulls its wing. I almost can guarantee you that based on what we've seen so far with the 2 stages, that it would be the same thing. They walk through like all these people getting super hyped on Guile's stage and stuff, and it's just the big Versus and Street Fighter logo, and then it splashes so cool. And you start fighting.
Okay, what if they just fly in because they're in like this air cruiser, right? They could just both characters just fly in like Top Gun status.
That'd be pretty badass if Guile jumped out of a jet. Then he started whooping your ass. I came back down here because someone's talking shit.
It would be really cool if you're on that stage and you take that character who's like, oh, here's the thing. We haven't had this since, God, I don't even know how long, maybe Alpha 2, where there's been, everyone gets their own stage. Does that sound right, Alpha 2? Because I don't think there were enough backgrounds in Alpha 3 to account for all the characters that were in Alpha 3.
Definitely not in Alpha 3.
And maybe New Generation or Second Impact then, but Third Strike, lots of characters shared stages.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, or maybe
Alex and Ken shared a similar stage with different lighting.
And Oro and Sean.
Q didn't have a stage. Q technically didn't have a stage.
That's a good point too. Yeah, Q was secret character, so he was just wherever. He would show up like in Necro's stage or something.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, but I've always been a big fan of that, like up until season 3, but we know why. Up until season 3 and Killer Instinct, everyone got their own stage, but then they started having to share stages in season 3 just because there wasn't enough time and budget and stuff.
They essentially chose between more characters or stages. Do we split? They made the right call.
The right choice. But I don't know if they'll be doing it for this. I kind of doubt it, given how detailed all the stages are. Like, there's just going to be like, you know, a smaller selection than the fighters. But it'd be really cool if like your character, if Guile always gets a custom intro on his stage, so people are like saluting him as he goes by.
If he has home field advantage.
Okay. Well, then we're getting a little too nuts. Or imagine you actually get a gameplay buff if you get home field advantage.
Guile has the classic stage. It always has those people in the background just cheering for him, right? And even in Street Fighter 5, it's like a redesign of the Street Fighter 2 stage. So I mean, maybe
you know what? That would be great about that. It'd be great if it wasn't like a gameplay buff. If you could actually hear the background characters like, "Get up, Guile, beat his ass!" Like they're actually like screaming for Guile to win.
That's actually just that. Well, that's better because it doesn't piss people off. But it's like a WWE game where they'll have like chants for certain fighters that are on the screen. Certain wrestlers that are on the screen. That'd be a cool little detail. But here's the thing: in Street Fighter 5 or maybe even Street Fighter 4, I'd be like, that's a detail they would never put in because that requires
too much
time and effort and budget, and it's a fluff thing. But now it's like Street Fighter 6 is filled with fluff because Capcom is doing so much better. They don't need Sony to foot the bill for its creation.
Yeah, we can't go get coffee today, all right? We need the budget to make a background.
Drink water.
Tap water.
Well, I'm not a massive Monster Hunter fan. Thank God for Monster Hunter World. Because I feel like half the cool shit we're coming out of Capcom is just because Monster Hunter World sold so well that they're just rolling in it. 24/7.
There was a big shift in the wind even when RE7 came out back for Capcom fighting games, you know. Then that's just like the change where it was like, wow, this is something that doesn't piss everybody off. I remember that moment. A Capcom game that doesn't make everybody mad? Weird. This is
weird.
This doesn't feel right to me.
But yeah, I would love it if stages actually gave characters like just like thematic buffs where, you know, Chun-Li stage, you have all the kids, like the orphanage kids and stuff like that. Everyone that works around is cheering Chun-Li on.
Beat the bad guy up.
Yeah, you get like Luke has a stage and everyone's cheering Luke on from like the gym or something like that. And then you get Ryu's stage and you hear the wind.
Ooh,
that's it. Cool. The wind says his name, like Ryu. because he just sits in solace and there's no one there.
I thought you were going to say that that's
like,
sad because Ryu doesn't have any
He has
friends.
no friends. Ryu has no friends.
And all he hears is his conscience like, embrace the
Yeah. Nothingness.
To be fair, if you think back, like Dalsim's wife in Dalsim's stage always reacted to when he got hit. And I think there's probably another example or two. There's like a specific character, and now it escapes me. I want to say like Eliza, but probably not. Like now when I think about it, I don't think she was ever featured in the stage.
It was
Eliza
Alpha 2.
In Alpha 2.
Yeah, Alpha 2 on the Ken stage.
I believe she did cheer when Ken would get hits. And there's also the crazy Cody thing in...
Yes, I knew it.
Yeah, you did do it. You do it.
Do you know the Cody thing, Justin?
No, what's the Cody thing?
In Alpha 2?
Well, which one's the Cody thing?
Cody.
Matt gets to tell this story. I'm so happy.
In Alpha 2, there's that Metro City stage where Cody has just got his arm around his girlfriend Jessica.
Yeah.
And if a female character is on screen and just fighting, his face tracks the female character, but it doesn't if there's two male characters. So when he tracks after like a few seconds, Eliza looks at him and just decks him in the face.
Oh my God.
And he, sorry, Jessica, and like he like looks down for a minute, but then he just resumes and does it anyway.
And then it loops. So he'll scope out the chicks and he doesn't realize he's doing it and he gets slapped.
That's so crazy. It's like that meme with the picture where the guy's with the girl and he's looking back.
It's exactly what they do. Yeah. And there was like some circa 1996 shit.
Dude, it's crazy.
And that's the stuff that they could do back in the 90s because it's like, just do
fun.
It. Why not? Like it's a few extra frames of animation.
And here's the funniest thing is that I would argue that these intros, these nods, these like stages, these little references, all this stuff that sort of meanders and permeates through a whole bunch of Capcom fighting games at the time, is one of the things that made Capcom fighting games actually popular. Right. Of course, gameplay is important. Obviously, like, you know, the competitive element and the fact that these games were like the competitive standard for so many years is definitely important. But for this wide audience and the reason people fell in love with these characters, the reason people want to still follow these characters to anything they're in to this day is because of all the fluffy shit like that. Right. And it's honestly, it's the reason why people love Mortal Kombat more than ever, because they focus so much on that stuff in MK. That part of MK has like a quarter the budget the game, it feels like sometimes. Like
characters that were lame back in the day, or not lame, but there wasn't much to them. There was just a palette swap ninja. Like, yeah, you could say Ermac is kind of cool, but I mean, what is he doing differently than anybody else? And then slowly over the years, like, no, Ermac is 1,000 souls inside one guy and they all speak in this weird voice. And like Rain is this like prince and he betrays everyone like they did all that stuff. And like Street Fighter 4, they kind of ignored all that stuff because it was all about bringing back Street Fighter 2, but doing it, you know, in whatever ways that they chose. And like now, and Street Fighter 5 was like even that, but like somehow less. Not for every character. Like again, Cody is now the mayor, and that was so cool. But that was few and far between when you'd see that type of progression. I think Sagat would be kind of one where Sagat didn't even care about Ryu at this point.
Yeah, he'd left the Shadow and everything.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's stuff like that, but for the vast majority of the cast, it was the same. Like Zangief is the same, Guile is the same, and, you know, Chun-Li is the same. And now it's like every character is getting this now. Every character is getting a refresh, not a refresh, but at least an update in their personality. And it's like really exciting to see. Like Guile's trailer dropped on the day of this recording, and Guile, I'm excited about Guile, which is a weird thing I never thought I'd say, because when I saw when he was revealed in Street Fighter 5, I was like,
yeah,
Guile. Yep. That's Guile.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got glasses on now. Cool. You know, all right. But
his arm somehow got bigger.
Yeah, and now it's like it's just the fact that he's got eyebrows. You know, it's like weird shit like that. He's got a beard. He's got eyebrows. He's wearing like a flight jacket type of shit, like a flight jumpsuit. I don't know. I think it's just the fidelity of it all, because even Guile like looked really good in some shots, and then all of a sudden he'd win in his win pose, and then he would be like, he'd have his like 1,000-yard stare. You're like, what is he looking at? Like, there'd always be some questionable moment in Street Fighter V's visuals where something looks really good and then something just looks totally off. You're like, what the heck's going on? And now it feels like a lot of that stuff has been relatively polished up with Street Fighter 6.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the crazy part for me, just looking at Guile, besides like everything you mentioned, like he has a beard. To me, I thought it was like, bro, he looks like the current Brock Lesnar, like WWE. Just gave him a beard and everything. Was the amount of different new, I would say, chain combos he has. Because normally he only had one chain combo throughout like history, which is like the low into the overhead, but now he has like so many different chain combos, from standing, from crouching, and I thought it was like, okay, they didn't want to take away the whole he's a 2 special move man, but let's give him a crazy ton of chain combos to make up for the lack of special moves, even though it seems like he might have like 3 special moves in the game.
And it's interesting because it changes Guile a lot, right? Now he has like crouching chain combos or standing chain combos, and I'm like, so why would they give this to Guile more than anything? And I'm like, oh, it's to give players more time to charge Sonic Boom. Is to give people more time to actually charge and not have to like really do the super tight like Sonic Boom stuff, which I imagine might actually scale a lot better damage wise, just theoretically, if you do the old school ones. But now there's like ability for people to do stuff. There's multifaceted ways of you to engage the character, which is smart. Like, and it looks cool. It's a different style of the character than we've ever seen before.
The one that stood out to me with the combo he did I was like, oh, this is a motion control combo where he did the crouching sweep into the standing heavy kick. It looked like a standing heavy kick into a flash kick. And I was like, wait, there's no way they showed an expert combo here. I think this is a motion control combo.
Yeah, because that's one of the more difficult combos to do in Street Fighter V.
Yeah.
It's a pro move.
It's a pro move. So the fact that it like modern controls give you that one hit special, that looks like pretty much a combo for like the new beginners that are trying to pick up Street Fighter 6 and they're not gonna use the classic controls. They're gonna use the modern controls.
I think it's actually a throwback, because Guile used to be able to do that in all the games where you can like buffer a standing button into flash kick. I think they actually did that on purpose to show you that, hey, the game's got some juice. Look at this weird stuff.
That was cool though. Yeah, that was super cool.
You know what I'd want? I'd want, if you're going to add a special move, didn't Charlie in the Versus series get like this air flash kick?
Yes.
Like an overhead flash kick. Is there anything like that? Like they didn't add anything like that in Street Fighter V, right?
Well, Charlie, I mean, Charlie's a significantly different character in Street Fighter V because he's Nash, right? In terms of Guile, kinda, yeah. In fact, this version of Guile is a bit closer to, it was the most close to Street Fighter V Guile, because he has like, he can throw like the big Sonic thing in front of him and then throw a boom through it, and it gets like armored and it moves forward a whole bunch. Like and he's got the install super similar to his V trigger, where he can throw a whole bunch of booms just by pressing a button type thing. He's really close to a Street Fighter V version here. And
they did confirm like today, in case I like officially in like a social media post, they're like, yes, you have 3 supers.
Yes.
You have a level 1, level 2, and a level 3. And holy shit, his level 3 is called something like Crossfire Somersault.
Yeah.
And that level 3 is along with Ryu's, I don't think we've seen a full video of Chun-Li's yet.
No, I haven't.
But that's as close to a fatality as Street Fighter has ever gotten, I think.
Like, there needs to be a fatality logo at the end of this thing, because these things are brutal, dude.
It's kind of like they took Street Fighter 4's Ultras, like the really cool Ultras, and they're like, you know what, we need this in Street Fighter 6.
And now they have like the cinematic flair, and the really like the camera movement is incredibly cool when it happens. Yeah. Almost like the cinematic flair of Fatal Blows in Mortal Kombat 11.
I'd say so. It's really, really close to it. And like, it makes me excited for characters that I wasn't that excited for, like in Street Fighter 5. Oh, Zangief's back. Oh, okay, that's cool. Here's the lamest level 3 super ever. Just that suplex where he just pushes him into the ground a bit more. And now I'm like, well, now I gotta see what like a Final Atomic Buster looks like in Street Fighter 6.
And it solves a lot of problems too, because you get only 3 bars apparently in your super. And since they are level 3s, you have to wait for them. You have to like make a commitment to use those, because it looks like the most characters, they're level 1s, is like it's just a low impact, like Shinko Hadouken, Sonic Hurricane, like something sort of basic that everyone that has had in the past that would be like their Street Fighter 5 super for the most part. But now like their level 3, you might have to save up for it.
Yeah, and even the level 2s, it looks like it's kind of like a install super. So it could be kind of like this is their V trigger activation type of thing, but in level 2 form.
it's a little bit like Alpha, whereas like Alpha is just like a stronger version of that super per level that you're doing it on. But now on each level, you get something like slightly different. Like, and that's a neat thing to have done. Like, that's a really interesting change. And also, big ups to Capcom for calling them super arts again. If you want to know what game that they're pulling from, it's fucking Street Fighter 3, because we're just calling it super arts now. There's no better name than super art. Ultra Combo, I hated, because I'm like, no, get away from Killer Instinct, get away.
Ultras.
Just super art is so amazing.
There's a reason why they're doing that. This is the first time in 23 years that Street Fighter has moved beyond Street Fighter 3.
It's true. I forgot.
Yeah. We haven't talked about that yet, how it's like they actually did what we thought was impossible. We're going to take these characters and move them beyond, the SF3 series, because Street Fighter 4 and 5 just sort of meander somewhere in between Street Fighter 2 to Street Fighter 3. Like the actual
kind of random.
Yeah, the chronology or whatever with a timeline of all this shit when you actually put it together is so ridiculous looking, how it's like 5 is back here but 3 is in front of it and now 6 is behind 3. Like
it's standard for Capcom, because it's like that shit's all over Devil May Cry, for example. Devil May Cry 2 is like the one at the end of the timeline, whatever. So I kind of almost expect it from Capcom now, but it is really nice to get that confirmation, because last podcast we were like, it's after Street Fighter 3, but we don't know how long we do. And but that was just our theory. Like, Capcom hadn't said anything up to this point, but now they're like, no, it totally is. And it's just always good to get confirmation on stuff. So
does that mean it's just pretty much peace in the Street Fighter world now at this point? Like,
and now it's just a fun tournament
and everything. Yeah, it's just fun.
It appears that way. But in Guile's story stuff, the very brief story stuff that they talk about on the PlayStation blog and the Capcom blog, they do say that with Shadow Lu defeated, Guile got to go home and be a family man, but is called back into action due to a new mission. So there's clearly like been a long period of like silence where like, Middle Earth had not had any crazy shit happen to it for a while. And then, the fires of Mount Doom spawned some crazy hell demon. Bison. It should be just an undead version of Bison where his shit's all tattered and he's just really angry.
And he's back. He's like, I'm not finished yet.
Not dead, dickheads.
Because the time of Sin is over, I guess. That was what a failure Sin was. But now it's like everyone's kind of going, well, I mean, they haven't talked about it, but that like Neo Shadow Lu is a thing now, perhaps.
Wasn't that SF5 story?
Yeah, but since a character from SF5 is carrying over into SF6, the thought process is that, like, I am done with any form of Shadow Lu, Neo or otherwise. Like, I don't know what you're supposed to do at this point. Like, you don't always have to have an evil organization. Like, you can, and even Gil, like the Illuminati, right? Like like every guy has his thing. Every guy has his cult, his whatever. And I'm kind of like, I don't know what you're supposed to do, because I've never seen Street Fighter take its story somewhat seriously. So I don't even know what to tell you to do.
Has there ever been a fighting game tournament that has ever been only a fighting game tournament? It's always been something that happens. But
because, Justin, my friend, they always overthink it. They go, oh no, but there needs to be some bullshit in the background. They need to have Ultra Tech opening up portals and bringing weirdos through. Hey, come on, guys, come in. And they always do this with a fighting game. I almost think that Mortal Kombat kind of does it the best by establishing the rules like way out in front and say, well, then anything can happen. It's fine. But when you don't plan that far ahead, like in Street Fighter or even KOF, it's just, I don't know. This time it's just a new monster.
It's the same thing in Tekken as well,
Yeah, it is. What is Terry's quote when you're about to like different Terry quotes in KOF 15? And I think when he fights like the last form of whatever, and he's like, some weird monster. That's standard shit in this game, in this universe.
It's like, oh, I'm fighting a dinosaur. It's King of Fighters, all right.
Like, why would you come back at that point? Like, if you would, like, especially King of Fighters, I'm like, man, all this stuff happened with Rugao and Orochi and like all these like clones. I'm like, why would I ever come back to another invitation if you sent me that invitation?
Well, because Terry wants to punch whatever in the face. Like, I want to see what I can do with whatever creature is there. He knows there's going to be a creature. There's some god or whatever. I want him to fight Gaudamus again.
I need to test my god slaying skills.
Exactly.
So I think the implication about like we're moving beyond like the third strike era of Street Fighter 6 now, or we're now in the future, gets really interesting to me. I mean, granted, we've already had a lot of stuff spoiled, and it's almost been impossible to avoid that. But just looking further down the line, as far as like which other characters could appear, I'm genuinely curious if some Street Fighter 3 appearances start happening, where we get like relative third strike characters, right? How they are now. Like, how has Makoto changed over the years with her dojo and stuff like that? How has Sean changed?
Because we never saw that, because so few third strike Street Fighter 3 characters made their way into 5, and even if they did, like Oro, I'm Oro again.
Yes.
Like I have to assume he's dead,
Oro
but who knows?
Can't change that much because they're before 3, you know?
Exactly.
And even in 4, when they introduced a whole bunch of third strike characters, they were just pretty much their Street Fighter 3 versions, because once again, we're before 3, we can't change things that much.
So here's my theory for if Makoto was to come back. I want Makoto to be the most ripped, buff, like Fist of the North Star style character. Like I want her to be God. I want her to be the new Akuma. Yeah. Essentially, like
she should be jacked.
You want her to be like one. You pretty much want her to have like the powers of One Punch Man. Just straight one punch, you dead. Straight Senshugo Dodonsky, and then into the nuts, and then it's just game over.
She needs to be built like that one Chun-Li cosplayer we always see pictures show up on Twitter every once in a while, where it's like, damn, that's Chun-Li, all right. These have that big ripped upper body and stuff like that, because she already has that. Her proportions, like, she's always been stacked, and she's got like a huge, massive frame where it's like, damn, she's gonna beat your ass, man. She's been working out. That's like Makoto's the perfect character for that.
Yeah, I think the only character I was trying to think in my head, like, what do you do with them to progress them? It's like, what do you do with Dudley, really?
Yeah,
like he's already like a classy gentleman. I'm like, do you ken him?
What if he's like dirty now?
He's like a bum. Sorry, what was that, Justin?
Like, what if he just starts to fight dirty now instead of like let's fight like gentlemen? He just let's fight dirty.
But Balrog was already like let's fight dirty.
Maybe Balrog is the clean gentleman guy. Maybe they flip it.
He becomes classy.
I'm down for that. I would be down for that regardless.
That'd be pretty cool. Like, Balrog starts training Dudley. He's like, let me teach you the ways of the dirty bull.
They can always fulfill my crazy dreams of like if Yin and Yang came back, you know, my crazy fever dream that Yin and Yang should be one character and you control them both at the same time or some weird shit. They like tag each other in like Ziku does in Street Fighter 5.
Sorry, I thought you meant they wear the Patara earrings or they do a fusion dance or something.
No, stupid shit. No, they're like they'd be like Ziku, you know, where they could like change stances and one changes into the other.
That'd be cool too. To be fair.
Yeah, I mean that would be interesting just because like I mean when you think of like CVS2 his super Yun super he calls out his brother Yang to do damage, so I feel like that would be cool. I mean even in Street Fighter 3 like Yun and Yang were the same character.
Yeah,
you couldn't bring Necro back because you already have the two characters that are Necro.
Yeah.
Oh, Blanca and Dawson.
Unless you redesign Necro completely.
Yeah, but then just have a new character then at that point.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, like
it's kind of what they did with G, you know, it was probably Q for a very long time. And then, you know, the Japanese way of things is that, oh, we put too much new stuff on this character. He's a new character now. It's not G anymore. I'm sorry. It's not Q anymore. It's G. Okay. Listen, you stupid. Stop asking questions.
So for Street Fighter 6, we're not going to get G or Q. We're going to get X. Just his name is just straight X. Yeah. That's it.
It would actually make sense if like Q comes back now, because it certainly seems like G could have eventually turned into Q.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, I shouldn't be too picky because I already got Alex in Street Fighter 5, and I do like Alex in Street Fighter 5, but I would like him to come back and him be kind of like classed up a little bit like Cody or something, where he's like a little more disciplined and not just like, oh, I'm just going to punch whatever. And I could always use more grapplers. I know Justin always can use less, but I would really enjoy seeing his progression because he didn't get much in Street Fighter 5. He's just like, I'm Alex. I've got flannel around my waist now, I guess.
Listen, my legs got backwards.
Yeah, we don't need Alex, but I will grant you Hugo and Hagar at best. You can have those two because I want I want especially Hagar to be just in a Street Fighter game.
Yeah.
But I know it seems like Zangief's going to be coming soon, but Hagar, I would love that. Hugo is another amazing character as well, and because they're in Metro City, why not, right?
Yeah. I think the other thing that the Guile trailer does very well is that the game looks better here than it did in the initial reveal trailer and like the follow-up gameplay stuff. Like, it was pretty clear that first bunch of footage that we saw for the game, like even last week, was from an older build of the game when they were getting things spiced up, right? Because the Guile trailer looks good. Like, Ryu looks better, Guile looks better.
I need to find a 4K version of the Guile trailer because it does look good. Like in the shot where he's about to do the level 2 thing, the install.
Yeah.
Like there's a shot of that where it looks so sick. Like it's like a screenshot for a second. I'm like, oh my god! Like now it's even more stylized and I bet I haven't seen I only seen a 1080p version and it kind of looks a little blurry here and there because there's so much shit happening on the screen. But here's the thing: we were talking about how Guile probably has his same 2 moves, maybe another one, but every few days now, Capcom has put out an official, here's a short 15-second clip of this character's new moves. They're always new.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it still would be nice if he had something that you can do in regular gameplay that's not like a super or whatever it is, just a command normal. It'd be nice if it was something new because I still think he needs it. I remember when he came back in 5 the first time and he had same 2 moves.
Yeah.
I remember some people being like, really?
I just think it's just kind of his iconic identity at this point where he's just only has 2 moves.
Being a basic bitch is now part of my identity.
Yeah, but he'll have new different ways to do a sonic boom. That's kind of their way of spicing things up.
And they even said that we essentially took his V skill from the previous game and we gave it to him as a special. And even Guile at the end of Street Fighter V was doing lunging, jumping forward sonic booms and shit. I think it wouldn't be surprising if he had, maybe a little bit more stuff to show off. If they do eventually do the Guile short Twitter clip where they show off a couple new things he does, I almost guarantee you they're going to focus on his target combos.
Yeah,
probably,
because that is new. That is a new big deal for the character.
Yeah, and I think because you see so many target combos from Guile, and like you were saying, this is a newer build. It's very possible that probably Ryu and Chun-Li will also have a good amount of new target combos as well too.
Oh yeah,
I think so. You mentioned earlier about how other communities and even other countries, players like Japan or certain. What their impressions of the game are right now, and I don't know much about it because I've seen people talking about it a little bit, but I haven't dived deep, so I'm wondering about that right now.
Yeah, it essentially came from FGC Translated, who we finally get to hear some thoughts and impressions on his YouTube channel, on their YouTube channel about how Japanese players feel about certain games. We get to hear how much Daigo disliked Street Fighter 4, and how much he really disliked Street Fighter 5 at the start, and then he eventually says it turned into a really good game. And then you also get some crazy stories about how much he disliked Third Strike, right? How a lot of Japanese players don't really like Third Strike, and parries for that regard. And it's an interesting topic because so much of it is now in Street Fighter 6, where it's taking things from 5, it's taking things from 4, and a big universal mechanic of the game is the fact that parry's there. How much is that going to nerf the entire Fireball game of Street Fighter again? Because that's what happened to Third Strike. I would say, and asking Justin directly, who was knee deep in the competitive element, and I really didn't get into competitive 3S really hardcore until even after Moment 37. I'm sorry, Justin, but even around that time frame, that wasn't that sentiment sort of the same, that Third Strike was a really polarizing kind of game, and that even the Japanese players didn't really like it that much.
So it's because I guess when people think of Street Fighter, the definition of playing Street Fighter is okay, zoning with fireballs, you jump, you get anti-aired.
ST.
Right, ST. Street Fighter, pretty much classic Street Fighter 2, and then this also goes to Street Fighter Alpha series. You do the same thing, you could zone with fireballs, same thing with Street Fighter 4, and even same thing with Street Fighter 5, right, where fireballs and zoning and anti-airing is such a thing. But Third Strike, the fact that you could just jump, and if you have the confidence to parry your anti-air,
The balls.
right? The balls, people are just scared to anti-air you. Then it becomes this is not Street Fighter, right? And that's why where people always say Third Strike is not Street Fighter. It's just a different game with the name Street Fighter into it. And because a lot of these players that always transition from, okay, I play Street Fighter 2, now it's the next game, I gotta play Alpha, now I gotta play Street Fighter 3, now I gotta play Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5. A lot of players don't like, especially pro players from Japan, do not like Third Strike, especially players that keep up with new fighting game tournaments. But there's a whole giant scene only dedicated to Third Strike, like
Co-op
Cooperation
Cup shows
Cup,
that,
right? And it shows like they have like 1,000 teams show up of 5v5s. That's so many people playing Third Strike, because those guys are only just diehard Street Fighter 3 Third Strike players, and that will really never transition to like Street Fighter 5 or even Street Fighter 4. They will like try and then they just go back. Even, and this, I would say this also sentiments back to a lot of American players as well too. A lot of diehard American Third Strike players really only stick with Third Strike as well. And then a lot of players that play the other games, they usually most of the time don't know how to play Third Strike, or will say, nah, Third Strike's not my type of game.
for sure. And that's something that is like even telling. I think Third Strike's sort of a unique situation. Third Strike's kind of like Marvel 2, where people just like stick with the thing. It's like the Smash Brothers Melee situation where no, we like this thing. We've been playing this thing for a long time. This is what we do. This is what we like. And they have their really hardcore audiences. The interesting thing about it is that isn't like absolutely unique to those games. Those games have their really big communities, especially still to this day. But, you know, there was a huge disparity with what happened around Street Fighter 4 to Street Fighter 5, where a lot of people didn't really like the way Street Fighter 5 was in comparison to Street Fighter 4. And believe it or not, I'll see some people play Street Fighter 4 online on PC, and I'm like, I've seen these names are all these dudes from back in the day. Like they're still playing Street Fighter 4, and that's really not that uncommon of a thing, that people just wanted to go back and stick with the thing they like and they don't like the new thing. Number one, because they don't want to have to learn the new thing and suck at it all over again. And number two, they just don't like the way the new thing plays.
Yep. I think it's a pretty common scenario, like you said. Most of the time, it's kind of like, man, I put all this time and effort and I got so good at this game. And now you're telling me a new version comes out, everyone's moving on, and I have to relearn all over again.
Yeah. I experienced this sentiment and feeling exactly a long ass time ago when I committed a huge part of my life to Marvel vs. Capcom 1. And I can't even tell you, by the time I actually got Marvel 1 at home and we could finally practice and train at home, I was just furious to get back to arcades to start beating some of that mega ass and showing people all this new stuff that I could do. And I shit you not, the Marvel 1 machine was moved. There was this big crowd on the right. I didn't even look at them. And I went to the back of the arcade. It was like several aisles down. I'm like, the fuck is going? There's like 3 people playing it. What the hell?
They moved it.
What
they moved it
happened?
into the bathroom.
They moved it back. I'm like, what's going on? So I went back to the front of the arcade. I was about to ask, like, what happened to Marvel 1? And I look at they're playing Marvel versus Capcom 2, and I'm like, oh shit, fuck this game. This stupid fucking game. Like, I was 100% there, man. I've felt that back in 2000 or 2001 when the game first came out.
So then, so from my perspective, I also felt that, but in a different way. So I love Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and I love playing Sentinel, for example, in Marvel 2. He's so fast, super mobile. Like he was just crazy, right? One of the most broken characters in fighting game history. And then Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out, right? So in my head, I'm like, oh my god, they got Storm, they got Sentinel. I need to go play Sentinel again because he was so fun. I played Sentinel in Marvel 3. I'm like, the first thing I said, this game sucks. I literally said, this game sucks because I'm like, why is he moving like this? How come he's not moving as fast as he did in Marvel 2? He's moving so slow. All you do is just jump and just hit people with a frying pan that does 50% life. Like he just became this giant, like, big body brawler, and I hated it. And I think the crazy part was I complained so much on social media that even the Brady Games guides that came out with Marvel 3 said that the reason why Sentinel got nerfed is because Justin Wong complained about it that he was so broken and so stupid. And that's the crazy. I was like, damn, they quoted me on this on an official guidebook? That's crazy.
But wait, why would Brady Games have any like say?
They don't. They were like making shit up, man.
So it's because Clockwork and Shady K wrote that specific guide.
Say, didn't Clock write that guide?
Yeah. There you go. That explains it more.
Why did I have to add that jab though?
I was like, why does Brady Games hate Justin? Like, that
like
makes more sense
seem
now.
like they have direct communication with the devs, and the devs did it because of Justin. It's like, I don't know if the strategy guide makers are sitting there right next to the devs as they're making the game, dude. In fact, I think that's usually not how it goes.
Yeah, it's not. But it was just funny that I saw that. I saw the little quote.
That is pretty strong.
But yeah, this whole Street Fighter 6 conversation has like sparked this interesting, like outside of the thing we were just talking about, this interesting topic about parries and how parry is now a universal mechanic again. This isn't something that's completely new. Because Street Fighter V had several characters that had parries in it between Alex, Ryu,
Gil.
Gil has the best one, I think, and then you also got, I think Abigail technically gets a parry. I really don't know.
Yeah,
but,
Abigail got the chest parry.
yeah, and Gil's is the best one because it acts the most Third Strike like, right? Mm-hmm. Where you can really attack after and get some like big launcher or some shit like that. Yep. So. And a lot of people don't like that, right? A lot of people actually really dislike the fact that like Gil has a good parry and it bugs them and stuff. And it's this thing that sort of meanders in the game. It doesn't really add thing to it. People think like, oh, this parry thing sucks, you know? So the parry in Street Fighter 6 is a lot like those, right? It's a lot like I'm taking a stance. I'm going to catch the thing. It's either going to work or not work, and things will beat the parry, you know? And you can like throw me out of it. But Street Fighter 6 and Third Strike, which is what it's taking impression from, are way different. Like Third Strike parries are not Street Fighter 6 parries, are not Street Fighter 5 parries. Third Strike parries have no animation unless it hit, right?
Yep.
They're like throws from Super Turbo. You don't see the throw animation unless it hits. So that makes them inherently like a lot better and a lot more focused on gameplay because you can just sort of throw it out and fish for parries and hope to get something. Also, it's the fact that like Third Strike in its system, if you try to parry, there is a weakness. You can be thrown, which is why you see people get thrown like 9 times in a row, sometimes in Third Strike. They're trying to parry. And that's the reason why that's happening. They can't tech the throw if they've parried. Yeah. So it's created this interesting like animosity that sort of has built a bit around Street Fighter 6, where some people are like, Jesus, like game around parries, you know, again. And a lot of Japanese players, I think Mago and Daigo recently talked about it. Mago really doesn't like parries. And Daigo has even mentioned the fact that, a lot of Japanese players in general don't love Third Strike. It has its own hardcore audience and they play their own game, you know?
So there's a term for that. Mago never really played Third Strike. He obviously knows how to play, but he's like never ever like was one of the best players or ever known to be good at the game. But I would say based off his sentiment, the reason why he hates parry is this is a term that we use. It's because they do not want to deal with guess parries.
Yes.
Where people are just guessing and fishing for a parry to win. So that's kind of like the meta of that situation.
And I can actually echo the reason why I ended up liking Third Strike so much and why I ended up liking another fighting game that has a very similar kind of element. There's a part to fighting games where people really like practicing something. It is the way it is, and you don't have to deal with many things around it. That's why a lot of people like Street Fighter 4 when it was very like vortex heavy, because you did your thing, it resulted in the thing, you practiced the thing, and you got rewarded for it. Games like Third Strike are the opposite of that. You know, where there's not just like, okay, you know, I got the guy knocked down. He's going to wake up and do something or backdash, right? There's a limited amount of options what's going to happen here. In a game like Third Strike, on a knockdown situation in neutral when characters are just conducting themselves, because of the parry, the amount of things that could take place is like huge, right? And they're not all like this. Definitely evolved over time to what's eventually good, right? And you don't actually see all that stuff all the time. But man, over like 15 years, it was just the kitchen sink of what somebody's even coming up with of how you could approach a matchup or situation, because the parry could just be used whenever, however, if you have the execution to do it. It's funny. I like that. I actually like the fact that the game is like always making you make decisions. It's always making you do this stuff. But I can also understand why people like Mago dislike it and think that it's not great, because it sort of like is the antithesis of the classic Street Fighter-ness. I DP you, I get an anti-air, right? I do this happens there. And even Matt said it perfectly in your Street Fighter 3 What Happened video, where that was like the point of the game. They wanted to create a fighting game around unanswerable situations.
Yeah, that was a quote from the one of the main designers of the Street Fighter 3 series. He's like, you can have all the theoretical knowledge in the world about Third Strike, but it's never going to 100% help you all the time.
Yeah.
There's never a perfect answer to every situation because the parry system kind of throws that out on the window. And while I also really like it and you really like it, I can understand someone saying, well, I don't like being in a situation where I don't know what's going to happen.
100%. Yeah.
And both styles are valid.
And I'll say one of the things I liked the most about Third Strike, why I also hovered towards the Versus series in general, is that I really dislike the limited mobility of Street Fighter games. I really dislike the fact that we're just sitting on the ground waiting for each other to do stuff, and you can't really jump, you know? That was a thing that made me really love like X-Men versus Street Fighter and Marvel versus Capcom. Also, you know, Third Strike allows that. If you essentially start parrying, there's so many options that can happen. You can parry like anti-airs. There's ways to get out of it. You can just jab the holy hell out of somebody just to bait parry. But it left like a whole bunch of unanswerable situations where empty jump throw now kicks in. This is like the only fighting game that has empty jump throws because of it. It's very different, right? It's a very different game than what people were kind of used to before.
Yeah, and I think because of people are afraid to get random out. That's kind of what they think of what parry is, just because they're like, they want a lot of people, they just want stableness, right? So they want the better player to always win. But because if parry is part of the equation, the percentage of the better player always wins kind of goes down.
You have to account for too much.
Yes.
It's like a defensive version of a revenge mechanic where people like, I don't like revenge mechanics because it gives like lesser skilled players the chance to come back. It's like a defensive version of that. But at the same time, it's exciting because it can happen at any time. It's, hard to do for most people. I mean, like I can only parry 25% of stuff that comes my way. And usually if I do parry something that's like really hard to parry, I'll be like, yeah, I totally meant for that to happen. Yeah, totally. That's
you just feel good for a second.
Exactly. You feel good for a second versus a revenge mechanic where it's only going to happen once per round or once per match. And it could go sideways. It could go, oh, well, that whiffed or whatever.
This was the exact same sentiment. This reminds me so much because we're just doing it all over again. Mortal Kombat 11. Right. And a lot of competitive players really disliked MKX at the end of it because the game's internal systems were so focused around like a 50-50 situation where people just had to make big guesses. And if you didn't make those big guesses, you could essentially get beaten out by somebody that was a relatively mid-level player every once in a while. And then MKX rolls along and it's very different, right? The amount of ways that you can get opened up by stuff in MK11 is really specific. And there's answers for a lot of situations in MK11 especially. So a lot of people really like that. They like the fact that Mortal Kombat was going back to this like less speedy in your up my ass all the time sort of situation that MKX was. And to a lot of people like myself included, it lost a lot of the fun. Like a lot of things that were really fun about Mortal Kombat before were kind of gone in Mortal Kombat 11.
Yeah, so I guess like the only like saving grace, even though you see a lot of people complain, like, especially pro players complain about, oh, parry is this, parry is that, and parry is bad. It costs meter. It costs drive meter to spend the parry. Sure. So you're not gonna see parry every single time, right? It actually requires some type of, do I have enough meter to parry? But it also can cause specific characters might be kind of trash or might be kind of weak, and I would say like maybe Guile, right? Because you see in his video he's throwing 50 sonic booms, and I'm like the whole time like, yo, if you parry all that, you get all your drive meter back.
You're literally just holding down, the parry button, and you could just soak it all up potentially, like reversal edge type stuff. So. It's interesting.
Yeah, so I think that's why they gave him a lot more target combos because they want them. They probably want the target combos to be used more just than the sonic booms. It's actually.
Yeah, exactly.
It all goes back to saying that the groove system is the greatest system of all time because it's just like pick what you want to do.
There's an argument to be had there, that's for sure.
It's definitely the best in my opinion too.
I mean, I don't know if Capcom would ever do like a versus fighter. This is before the Capcom showcase. I don't think they're going to be announcing a new versus fighter. But if they ever please bring the groove system back, or even it doesn't have to be like 6 grooves, but it has to be like at least 3. And then, you're going to have less people complaining. I'd like to think mathematically it makes sense that if you just select your groove, you do the shit that you want, whether it be defensive, offensive, and then another person would pick another thing, and everyone should be happy.
Yeah.
But I don't think it'll actually shake out that way in the end. Those people will still complain.
The only, here's the only caveat to that I will mention, because I've talked to people that think CVS is cool, but they get introduced to it and they see 6 different options, right? CAP and SNK, and they just have no idea what does what. In fact, I'll even echo a similar sentiment. I have never really put a ton of time into Alpha 3, even though it's a great game. It looks great and music's amazing. The presentation is godlike. I couldn't tell you dick for shit what X-ism does. I have no idea. I literally don't.
It's just ST mode. Just think of it like that.
That's what I thought. Where it's just like, it's kind of like playing Osagat, and you just play like a buffer version of those characters that can't air block, right? That's what I think in my head it is. But even with the 3 isms that are in SFA3, I still don't know exactly the intricacies between all of them. And I'm super casual SFA3, right? So you start thinking of other people that are like casual to CVS2. What the fuck? There's 6 options, man. What the hell is going on?
But I would say if a modern version of CVS2 came out, like say CVS3, and they used the current, I would say, grooves of like the current modern fighting games, like a Street Fighter 4 groove, a Street Fighter 5 groove, I think it would be pretty cool. Like it would be pretty darn interesting to see which, I would say, game mechanic is superior.
Oh yeah, I just love seeing Street Fighter characters run. I just love that. I just love seeing them run and groove style.
I was talking to someone not too long ago, and I was like, well, I mean, you couldn't really dash until like, Street Fighter 3. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, you couldn't dash.
You could walk only.
You could only walk. Only. And they're like, nah, in Alpha 3 you could. I'm like, could you though? People
got some selective memory when it comes to some of these older 90s fighting games, man.
You know what it is? The crazy part about that, what your friend would probably be saying, is that he might not be wrong, because he's probably playing a character that actually had a dash, because Nash is one of the only characters that can dash in that game.
Yeah, to command dash, right?
No, it's just forward.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, it's just forward. It's just only him that had it, from at least from what I remember. But I know he definitely had it, because that's how you do his Vism combo. You have to do his forward dash.
He didn't have that in Alpha 2, did he?
No, he didn't.
No, it was an Alpha 3 thing, yeah. A lot of people think like dashes are an Alpha 2, and I'm like, I remember people on my stream where I'm playing Alpha 2, they're like, why aren't these guys dashing around? Oh, sweet summer child.
Yeah.
That's what the custom combo's for. Whee! And you fly across the screen.
At that point, like in 95 or 96, like, what fighting game wouldn't let you have some form of universal dashing? And you just kind of in your head go, well, yeah, of course it did. I'm like, no, like all SNK games, you were like be able to dash or run at the very least. And then it's just so weird that it took them so long to adopt that. And even then, like dashing in Street Fighter 3 is like different than like a lot of other games and whatnot. So it's just a weird thing that people tend to forget, like the Mandela effect. Oh yeah, you can totally dash in Street Fighter Alpha. Now you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy because Alpha 3 just in general just has random mechanics depending on the character. Like Vism Dan has push block, and I'm like, that's random. Cody can just auto dodge, and people just get mad because I can't hit him. So he just auto dodge mid attack. So it's just Alpha 3 is just random with mechanics for some reason.
Yeah. And to like sum up the whole situation about how there's like a little bit of polarization from like the Japanese core Street Fighter community that's been sticking with Street Fighter for so long and didn't just stay with Street Fighter 3. A lot of them really do feel, and I would say this because like Mago in the recent video when he was talking about it did say how Alpha 3 is like one of his favorites next to CVS2. And Daigo would say the same thing too, that he thinks like the best Street Fighter game was like Alpha 3 or the Alpha series. So it's funny, right? And it's weird because there's a lot of like crazy things, and there's a lot of crazy things in the Alpha series as well. You can jump and block, Yeah. Like there's a lot of stuff that's like a wrench thrown into the mechanics. It wasn't like it was like the tried and true, exactly like more refined version of ST. Like those games, the custom combos are nuts, man. Like Alpha Counter has a big impact on the game as well. Like those are very different games in many ways. But it really just like, whether or not you're a pro player, right, or you put like 50,000 hours into something, or you're casual about something, you're going to like what you like,
Yeah, of course.
And you do have to absolutely take into account that like competitive players and people that have been playing this super seriously for so long, like Justin, like Mongo and Daigo, if not a lot of these Japanese players that play everything, they've put like hundreds of thousands of hours potentially like into all this stuff over all this time, and they've really gotten to refine exactly what they love about the series. And it won't be everything, right? Because if there's one thing that I think is more popular than any individual Street Fighter game, it's Street Fighter as a brand, right? The brand Street Fighter is really valuable to a lot of people in several different ways. And even somebody like myself would be like, yeah, I definitely prefer the non Street Fighter, the Third Strike, over any of the other ones, like for sure. But do I just like Street Fighter in general? Is it exciting to see a new Street Fighter be a thing and be like exciting again, even though it might not end up being a game that we personally like want to dedicate the next 5-6 years of our life to or something like that? It's just fun to see that there's actually new things happening, that there's actually new takes, that there's actually some fire has been lit on the Street Fighter universe as a result of Street Fighter 6, and that's super refreshing.
Yeah, like it all comes back. We've mentioned a little bit about this before, but it's like Street Fighter 4, obviously excited because it's been a while, but like Street Fighter 5, it had so little identity compared to it. It's like, here's this new villain, Nakali. Yeah, he's not really the new villain, actually. Let's just drop him altogether. Let's try to course correct. And then it just didn't hit for me specifically. I've talked about this before, but like everything I'm seeing now, it's like, no, I'll take Guile now. What?
Yeah.
Someone tell me what's wrong with me. And like even all these other fresh like default looks for the characters and these new mechanics, like and reaching back into Street Fighter 3, taking this and that. And like, but Street Fighter 5 just it was weird because they were trying new things, but there weren't things that I was liking about the game. And everyone has their memory point of like, this is why I like, not even Street Fighter, but this franchise, Resident Evil, or Mortal Kombat. This is the stuff I like. And it's really hard. Any series. And it's really hard to make anything, and you can't please anybody. The only thing a company can do, which Capcom is doing, is like, let me at least let it be possible for you to play the games that you do like. Oh, here's a fighting game collection that you can play on modern systems. And if you're not hard, and if you're way too hardcore for that, just boot up Fightcade.
Yeah,
we're not legally taking them down, so we're not stopping you.
Yeah.
At least not yet. But that's all you can really do.
That's the wonderful thing, is that there's more resources now than ever before. And the funniest thing about the whole debacle of parries and stuff like that, and how it could destroy Street Fighter 6 and nerf the Fireball game, we have not actually played it yet, right? We've barely seen any actual in-match footage of an actual match, and not like a trailer match. So we don't know how fast this gauge recovers. We don't know how quick this stuff happens. All I'll say, it's like you fall in love with the Street Fighter you love for like a lot of reasons, whether it's like Moment 37 or, Moment 37 makes you hate it. and the funniest thing I found from these videos when I was watching them, which were some like crazy hot takes from some of the best players in the world, was the fact that they still mentioned, even though they don't like Third Strike and they think it's like a relatively like casual friendly game, they would say it's one of the best feeling like fighting games. And I think that's absolutely true. Like jumping in and kicking someone in the head and doing like low forward super in Third Strike feels ridiculously good. And it feels really bad in Second Impact and New Generation, which is funny. They refined the hell out of it. And I think that's an important thing. How does the fighting game feel? What is the first impression you get when you actually collide with characters and hit buttons? That's what I'm so curious about with 6.
When I do my episodes of the worst fighting game, I have a category that some people, a small amount of people go, I don't get it. And it's just called game feel. Yeah. Because I have mechanics before that and presentation before that. I'm like, you can have the best mechanics and the best presentation in the world.
Game can feel like shit.
Game can still feel like shit. Like I think for Shaq Fu, I'm like, there's some mechanics here. There's actual mechanics. That's kind of weird. That's kind of interesting. But the game feels so bad because the animation is so long and drawn out. So it doesn't feel snappy. It doesn't feel, when you hit characters in Shaq Fu, it feels like shit. And you want to stop hitting characters. And like, a hallmark of a good fighting game is that one does all three of those things pretty well.
Yeah.
They don't have to do it amazingly well, but if one, like, a really bad presentation could maybe not sync something that terribly, because like again, it's probably like the least important thing. But game feel is super important.
Game feel is super important, but let's not kid each other that the bad presentation part won't just absolutely sink the game, because it absolutely has happened several times.
As a Marvel versus Capcom Infinite apologist, you know that firsthand that presentation can't sink a game.
But at least we had Marvel 3 where the attacks actually felt amazing. Every attack in Marvel 3, I felt like, man, that felt freaking good.
I agree. I completely agree. And I've actually done step-by-step looking at those stuff. Like, why does Marvel 3 feel better than a lot of the attacks in MVCI? And I literally would boil it down to like screen shake when this happens. It zooms in a little bit when this happens. And they don't do that in MVCI because they don't want to like shake the screen anymore. Like, we don't want to blind the player with crazy stuff. And I'm like, that's the point of the game, man.
Make it crazy.
Make it crazy.
I feel like you've put on a scientist coat and put both games under a literal microscope, and you're just trying to figure it out. You actually have. You have your lab coat. Okay, that's nice to know.
All right, so we're back. I've returned from the future to grace TKO with impressions of video games
from the past.
From the past, yes. I'm here to be on a podcast because the future that I'm from, information moves so fast that previous podcasts are made irrelevant within minutes. So we have to fix this.
Yeah, and usually you guys on the West Coast are always in the past, but like now this is the exception, I guess.
The real question is, did you use a hot tub time machine or a DeLorean?
No, I use a DeLorean. These are the new ones. They're making new ones apparently. They're sedans, and that's what I use. I use my DeLorean sedan to come from the future.
But Exhibit put a hot tub time machine in the back of the DeLorean.
Exactly.
I mean, might as well be comfortable while you're driving.
So this is our TKO bonus because yes, I've had the unique opportunity to be one of the very few people that were kind of to play Street Fighter 6 at Summer Games Fest, and I can talk about it completely. I've talked about it a lot, and a lot of impressions are out there, but I kind of want to be in a situation where I have like Matt. By the way, thanks for being here, Matt. And Justin, thanks for being here, Justin. Hi, everybody. To sort of grill me about anything Street Fighter 6 that I can answer, because I got a lot of impressions. I talked to the developers a lot, and no kidding, the devs sat with me for approximately 4 hours and played matches.
Oh, and that's great.
You like held each other and you like cried about how much you all love Street Fighter, right?
Capcom TV has this little show that they do in Japan, right? And the lead producer of the game is named Matsumoto-san, and he's a super cool dude. And he was on the show, and they had pictures. And of course, I'm in several of these pictures because I was just in this corner for the entirety of this event, right? So I'm standing next to him, and I'm unfortunately a giant. A 6'4" tall giant,
super tall.
And you are tall,
is a relatively like normal sized human being. So on the Capcom TV show, everyone was giving him shit and here's Matsumoto-san with his American dad.
It really did look like it, because in the picture I'm like, man, it actually looked like he's like maybe like 12 years old type of height compared
he was
to
like
you.
5'3" or something like that, maybe 5'4". He's a normal sized dude. The problem is that I'm a disgusting giant human.
So what you're saying is that they got G's stature from you.
Yes.
That's who he's modeled after.
Okay.
NDA's over.
Now you just need the trench coat. That was the only thing missing.
Exactly.
So I'll start off like a quick fire grilling of Max with a very general question to set the tone. What Street Fighter does 6 play like the most, or is it like unique enough that there's not? It's very much its own thing. Just to put us on a base level here.
So to put us on a base level, the second impression you said is actually accurate. It doesn't. It has so much things from other Street Fighter games that it starts to feel like its own thing. To the point where I had to figure out what I have to do to describe this game, because it's a little weird for some people. At first, my impression actually wasn't great because it didn't really feel like 5, and it feels kind of heavy. Everyone uses that term when you first play it. It feels heavy, right?
Feels heavy.
However, my impression didn't go through the honeymoon phase where it's like, oh man, it starts off so good and then it starts to go down. That happened to me with Street Fighter 5, right? You
want the reverse of that. You want like not a great impression, but then as you play, you get used to it versus the honeymoon thing.
Exactly. I mean, ideally, it's amazing, at the beginning, and then it continues to be amazing. But at first, it feels so like alien and off that it's really hard to because the problem with Street Fighter games, we play the same ones for so long, you get so acclimated to the way they play, you have to go back to the old ones to like remind yourself, oh, this is really different. But that's the thing, it is different. So it doesn't feel individually like any game. It just has little things of all the games. The counter hit system also feels very much like Street Fighter V, while the footsies feel a lot like Street Fighter 4.
Nice.
There's some elements in neutral where like the decision making and how much decision making you make feels a lot like Street Fighter 3. And then you enter burnout mode and it straight turns into super turbo. Like it's funny how there's all these things. So I would have to, I use this description for some people that Street Fighter 6 reminds me of Resident Evil 2. And Resident Evil 2 remake felt like Resident Evil 2. It really did. It was like, oh man, there's like, this feels like RE2, but it feels completely different, right? Like it's a new take on what RE2 can be, but still completely familiar. You know where to go, you know what to do, but the way you do these things and how you conduct yourself is completely different, right? That's to me what Street Fighter 6 is like when you first play it. It's like this, like you're home, but all the furniture's been moved around.
No, that makes sense. I would say the one thing that I noticed from just like watching a lot of videos and kind of like seeing a lot of people's complaints about is like how strong is drive impact?
Strong.
Because it seems like it's pretty darn strong, right?
It's done a lot in the footage.
It is because in the footage that I was playing especially, I wanted to get the devs to sort of show me what is strong in development, because they're going to use the things that they're obviously designing the game to be good with, right? They want you to use the whole point of their process is that the drive gauge dictates like everything. So drive gauge will give characters, if they don't have individuality, but they already have a lot more tools than almost any version of the characters ever in the past. The drive gauge adds another level of like how you want to play the game. Do you want to play it super defensively? Do you want to play it super offensively? Do you want to always go for guard crush? Like all this crazy stuff that you can approach is all built into the drive gauge, as well as drive impact, and how much ease of use the drive impact gives. The reason drive impact is so crazy: 3 hits of armor, so it's naturally better than regular focus attack. It costs a very minimal amount of drive gauge, like 1 bar, and I think it gives it back to you if you hit them with it. So you're rewarded for doing it. And then the only difference between that and focus attack is that you can't do anything. You're super committed. So if you drive impact somebody, you're going through that whole animation. It is slow, but man, like if you're playing footsies and you sort of just get stuck in like the flow, right? Like the flow of Street Fighter, like I'm sitting here doing the things that are working and we're exchanging and I'm gaining my space, and all of a sudden you're fucking drive impacted and you're like, oh god damn. There's a lot of things in Street Fighter 6 that want to disrupt flow. And that is where I'm like really reminded of Street Fighter 3. Because Street Fighter 3 had like we want to disrupt the flow of the game and allow for something to sort of like get its way in there and change the pace of the match.
Because I was gonna say, watching all the footage, mostly yours, because you had like some of the most pristine, like like high level footage out there.
Thank you.
It really did remind me of a bit of Street Fighter 3 in that slowness and in that sort of. Especially Chun-Li footage. Chun-Li in this game, just I'm like, there's something about it. Maybe the animations, maybe her dress, maybe maybe the actual moment-to-moment gameplay. But I'm just like, ooh, this is giving me way more Third Strike vibes or Street Fighter 3 in general than any other game. It also like strangely reminded me of Samurai Showdown in its like slightly more methodical pace. Obviously, it has more combos and like higher hitting stuff. But maybe it's in combination again with the visual sort of fidelity of both. But it just reminded me a little of that. And I love playing Samurai Showdown for like a good while. I liked how chunky and slow feeling it was. And just watching this, especially with the impact of hits, just sound effects and stuff, just made me go, oh, this sounds real good and meaty.
That's one thing that is obviously, and I guess it's a bit better when you're playing the game because you really feel it. But the heft of the game starts to go away a bit when you start opening up the systems and figuring out how quickly you can do things, because there's a lot of stuff in 6 that is heavy, because when it lands, holy shit, it feels good. Like Third Strike level's good, right? But they do have recovery. So the gimmick of the game is that your buttons are crazy strong. These drive moves are also crazy strong. But they're quick. They come out in almost faster than some other Street Fighter games. Like the buttons are so fast, the special moves are so fast.
Yeah.
But that idea is the reason why would that be? Because inherently some of the recovery on them takes a bit longer, and also in neutral you have so many defensive options, right? You have drive impact, you have parry, you have drive reversal. In the same way that like some of the best fighting games have the best defensive mechanics, that exists because their offense is also really good, and you have to like offset really good offense with really good defense, and that seems to be what they're going for here.
Okay. Because the one thing I noticed, like obviously, especially with your most recent video with like the dev matches, like you started to actually beat drive impact.
Yes.
You started to be able to react much faster. As you said, it's a fast-paced game with like neutral jumps, drive impact back, and even just perfect parry to drive impact itself. I would say, do you think that's like what made you start getting into that mode, like into that mood?
Well, once again, this is like the reason I wanted to fight the devs, is because the devs will essentially be utilizing the game mechanics. When I go to events, like I don't when I play a fighting game pre-release, right? I want to play the game the way the devs are intending, because that's most likely the way the game will eventually evolve into. Like if stuff isn't powerful enough, they'll probably make it powerful enough because they want people to utilize this stuff. So I didn't want to play it like it was 5 or 4, or specifically even Street Fighter 3, because I think I was trying to parry a lot at the beginning and playing it like Street Fighter 3. So I want the devs to use this shit against me, right? I want them to be like, oh, they want me to find a solution. And yeah, my ass was getting drive impacted like crazy, because I was fishing with normals, throwing out specials from that like right before jump distance, where it's like you can't really react to fireballs, like the confirmed like old school Street Fighter stuff. And as soon as I started doing it more than once or twice, whoa, stop that shit, like immediately. And then, or they would parry or do like, you know, a bunch of utilizing the mechanics in the ways that they were intending them to be used. And the thing I have to mention, because drive impact like armor happens, I swear to God, almost immediately. Parry is activated on like frame 1, so you can literally wake up parry. But both of these moves, and similar to all the crazy offense you might have in the game and defense, is risk reward. Everything gives you a good reward and has an inherent huge amount of risk. If you get thrown out of a parry, it does like 20 to 25%. Like it is ridiculous. It's a huge chunk of life that you're losing if you whiffed parry and you get tossed out of it. It's nuts. And then drive impact can also
do you take more damage versus if you're not parrying? Like, does a throw do more damage during a whiffed parry?
Absolutely.
Wow,
so
okay.
So the idea is that there's a couple different counter hit states. When you start up moves, that's a regular counter hit state, sorta. It's hard to say exactly, but it seems when you start moves and you interrupt people out of things, that's a counter hit. Yeah. When moves have recovery and the enemy will do attacks, the recovery period is called a punish counter.
Yeah.
And that does way more damage. So when you exit a parry, you're doing this like parry pose and you exit, there's an exiting time frame. And in that exiting time frame where you're not parrying or doing anything, that is punish counter situation. A throw does like almost twice as much damage.
Yeah, because in the footage, it would say that on screen. It would say like punish counter. And I was wondering if that was something new or that was just the new like wording for like just counter hit or something or reversal or like I wasn't like 100%
It's a new counter system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like when people were like, what is it? I was like, it's a new system, but if you want to compare it to something, it's like the new crush counter, Street Fighter 6 version of a crush counter, but it's not limited to just that one specific normal that crush counters were meant for. The crazy part is like how punish counters actually work besides whiffs, right? Whiffs, whiff dragon punch, the whiff parries. I noticed that somebody blocked a sweep, and then when you punish the sweep, it counted as a punish counter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, so they don't even want you to sweep.
I think it's even on normals too.
Wow, yeah, that's crazy.
So it's an on punish counter, like some classic combos worked way better. I was able to do with Ryu. that doesn't normally work. Close, like, or not close, because there's no proximity normals in the game. Medium punch, and then down heavy punch, DP, which was like some of the most damage he can do, because the counter hit state added some more frames. I can get down heavy punch, bam.
Yep.
And the same thing also applies like a lot of Street Fighter V counter situations where it's like my jab landed, and now that's going to combo into a medium, that kind of thing. That was definitely happening. But the situational stuff that happens with counter hits felt like it was like twice as much as Street Fighter like 5. So they expanded the counter system, not exactly having like crush counter like be a thing. They definitely expanded on that system. It doesn't feel like the close range engagements are the same as SF5 because the throw tech window also feels really big in this game. So I don't know. There's a bigger throw whiff animation, I feel, in Street Fighter 6. So the very much like rock, paper, scissors game that you play at close range of Street Fighter 5 might not be the same because there's just so many other things you can do now.
Yeah. So I think the funniest part is all you guys that were playing at Summer Game Fest, right? And you're playing Ryu. How sad was you and everyone else when you try to do solar plexus and try to do a button afterwards combo? It just never comboed.
And you know what and then I realized, like, when everyone was trying that, and then I got to play a dev, and the dev was just canceling it into stuff. I was like, oh, they made this move cancelable now. So now you can like go into DP, or you can go directly into super, and it's really good. Oh, okay. So there were some situations that were like that, where it's like they just changed the properties of how this works. And they also gave Ryu like his evil Ryu forward medium kick is on.
I saw that.
It's the same thing. You can cancel it into EXDP and stuff. I think it also is a low crush, so it'll beat out footsies in some of those situations.
Yep.
It's really cool. Like Ryu has more tools and more target combos in this game than I think he's like ever had. And I can't even think of another version of Street Fighter where he has this many target combos. He had some that we weren't even doing, that I didn't even notice until the final day, that the devs started doing against me. And more specials in general.
They're saving stuff up for the last day to show you.
I know, right?
We talked a little bit, I think it was like in this episode, like about an hour ago for most viewers, but we're talking about how parries, would that like negate projectiles a lot in this game? We weren't sure at that time that we said it. So do you feel like it does, or is it kind of balanced right now?
So they do to an extent. And it's once again like a balance of this like risk reward thing, because the way they are seemingly balancing it out, because obviously, I feel like you have this easy parry, you're just going to parry every single fireball that Guile ever does, but I think the gimmick is, if Guile throws like a light sonic boom and is running behind it, and you parry the light sonic boom, you're putting yourself in a parry state, which has a shit ton of recovery. Right? Yep. So it's a commitment. It's not like Street Fighter 3 Third Strike parries. And even in Third Strike, projectiles in that game suck, man. Like the fastest thing you're doing is like an EX fireball from like Remy or something like that. And it's still very reactable. The fireballs in this game are nutty quick. Like Street Fighter 4 Ryu fireballs. Like they are quick as hell. So even from mid-screen distance, where you're like, footseeing and stuff like that, if someone just throws out like a fireball with either Chun-Li or Ryu, you're not reacting. Like you're gonna have to be on the ball if you want to hit that parry, dude. If you're from full screen, if you're throwing full screen fireballs, there's relatively little risk, but they almost encourage this, like, once again, this risk reward thing where they want you to get like right here and start chucking plasma or jumping or committing to a button or drive impacting. They sort of want to encourage like this spot, like this, like not full screen, mid screen, and you get to this spot right here. So it's interesting how fireballs didn't immediately become useless, even though they were giving the opponent, like, I think a little bit of meter and also drive gauge on return. They were still useful. And Ryu's Denjin fireball is the fastest regular fireball he's ever had.
Nice.
Boom, it's across the whole screen, like immediately.
It's like Sean's like Hado burst.
Yes.
Like
it's like
fastest?
that speed.
Wow, because sometimes I can't even parry that on reaction. And I know it's coming. I have a friend that plays Sean exclusively in Third Strike, absolute mad lad, and I know he's about to do it, and I still can't even do it. Like maybe 50% of the time.
Some of the times you parry. Sometimes in Supers and Third Strike, you have to parry before they even come out.
Yeah, sure. like Chun-Li's SA2 is like the perfect example. So the one thing obviously everyone talks about his parries, and like how we talked about Mago hates parries and Daigo their concerns. But when I look at the footage, parries in terms, like especially from the perfect parry situations, it seems like it's very hard to get a follow-up or a punish afterwards.
Yeah, so it works kind of like 3S. Even if you perfect parry a jump in, you're not guaranteed a ground hit.
Yeah,
Characters still apply the same frame data when they hit the ground, so they can just block. So a lot of times if you get like a parry in the air, like a perfect parry in the air, just DP, because it's stopping time at that point. Just throw out like an immediate like super or anti-air. But here's the crazy thing about perfect parry, and I don't know if this is intentional. After you perfect parry, your damage is scaled by like 50%.
Oh yeah, it was bad. I saw you do low forward super, and I'm like, it did no damage.
It did like a stand HP's worth of damage. I was like, what? And I even asked the devs about that, and they didn't have like an immediate response. But I was like, so little damage. So I did make a mention of it. How it's like, I feel like that's a bit harsh, right? A level 3 did nothing after a perfect parry. So I'm kind of curious their reasoning.
I thought it was actually a bug, because when you do regular parry and then get like something afterwards, it did regular damage. So
Drive impact, which is really good and way easier to do. Gave you great damage too.
Yeah.
Were they actually asking questions like of the people that were invited there to play? Like, how do you feel about everything so far? Or was it just mostly like, have fun and that's it? Or do you get the impression they were trying to get some data from this?
I definitely think they were getting data personally. They spoke a little bit of English, right? Not a ton. Okay. Enough for me to like understand that he's saying target combo, and he's saying like OD move, like crouching medium kick, low forward. Like they would say those things. So I'm like having at least an in-game like dialogue of what they're saying.
But so they're really saying OD move, or?
Oh no, yeah, they said because they don't say EX, right? They say OD.
I can't. I know
it's weird.
Like I can't say. It has to be EX for me for life.
It has to be EX
for life.
I said special super cancel doesn't work, and he was like OD, OD Hadouken. And then he was like, level 2, and he would say that, like, and I was like, I would understand what he's talking about. I'm like, oh, okay. So
that's interesting.
That was the kind of dialogue we were having. And then I actually did sit down with him for like 30 minutes and just grill him about, a bunch of general stuff. And I didn't really get into the super nitty gritty, like frame data stuff. But I played them for like hours, and just got to see situations happen, how they play out, how moves feel, like all that kind of stuff.
If I was in your position and we sit down for that 30-minute thing, like, I'm not talking about the game. Like, I already played the game, right? I'm not talking about the game anymore. I'm like, so how do we get more Final Fight into the game? You see, there's this obscure piece of lore, and then after 5 minutes, he'd be looking around trying to find a way out of this conversation with me. Like, that's my dream, to make to nerd out on a dev enough.
Matt, you'd be like, so what's the deal with the Hagar Memorial statue? Like, just give it to me straight. Let me know. Is he dead or what's up?
Just tell me. I'll cut this out.
or he'd ask, all right, I only have a lot of time. You can only ask me 3 questions. And I'm like, okay. Are you really the head of the Street Fighter 6 development crew? Yes. Really? Yes. You? Yes.
You?
All right, that's
that's your 3 questions. Bye.
In one of your videos, Max, you said that you actually found Chun-Li to be the most fun. Was that like an early thing, or did you change your mind later? Is that that's still the case?
I naturally really like Shotos, so I enjoyed Ryu because he's felt like such a more interesting and engaging Shoto than any of the stuff they were setting up in Street Fighter V, which a lot of the time seemed to just hate Shotos. So it was just nice having a Shoto with good buttons again. So I was really enjoying that. But if you want to talk about like through and through like repurposed characters, Chun is super different than previous versions, and she just has so much shit she can do that it's the first thing I said when I was like delving into her stances and how many different she has a ridiculous amount of command normals. Like there's like almost a command normal on every command normal equivalent to every regular attack, and then a stance that has a ton of like 6 different attacks that are also have unique cancel moves. I'm sitting here like, Ricky and Justin would be losing their mind with this character right now. Like there's so much stuff that Chun-Li can do. She's really cool.
Awesome. I mean, we didn't get into it too deep before, but like since Chun-Li is a character you play, Justin, what have you thought so far of that stuff? We only touched upon a little because at the time of the recording, we didn't get to see a whole lot of stuff yet, not full matches, but what were you feeling about her so far?
She's so beautiful. Like the fact that she can do all these like Serenity Stream stance cancels from like regular buttons. Like I saw the computer do like stand far,
HP.
stand fierce, into stance, into the crouching light kick, into EX legs. And then they gave her an air super that you showed off of the video at the Air Kiko show. And I'm like,
yeah,
man, like I am in love. Like this is my wife. I mean, my video game wife. Like I love Chun-Li. Yeah, she I'm so excited to play her.
I think Chun fans will be very happy. Of all the characters I played, I think Luke is easily the craziest. I'm sorry.
Really?
Jamie is easily the craziest, just because the amount of stuff he has is like the equivalent of like a Tekken 3 character. Like it's just so much. The move list just keeps going. The amount of stuff he can do just keeps going. The specials change. The target combos change depending on the drink levels. Like, and even when he's in level 4, which is like, Nicali mode, when his hair lets out, even when you go that far, there's still reason to keep drinking. Because when you end combos with drinking and you've already maxed out, it recovers your drive gauge then.
Oh my god, I was wondering that.
So he has target combos that are unique and stuff that is unique to level 4 that he continues drinking. I'm like, what the hell's the point of that? Like, why he's maxed out? Why does he need that stuff? Dude is recovering like full gauge and shit. I'm like, oh, that's good.
That's actually so cool. Like, because Jamie's is another character that really impressed me in terms of like how he's played, like the amount of like detail they put into him. The one character I'm actually surprised I did not see barely anything was Luke. Like,
yeah, I didn't see a lot going on with him either.
I went over some footage recently where I played Luke a lot, and I was trying to. The reason it was the same feeling where it's like, every other character seems really fun, and Luke feels like weirdly difficult. Things just don't flow as well.
Really.
So, funny enough, I think that might be an answer directly to Street Fighter V. I don't think they're. I think they're probably gonna tone him up a bit, because some stuff just didn't feel like it worked in certain ways. You would have to get his perfect charge moves, which are still in Street Fighter 6, where you have to like perfect charge his fireball back moves, which are like the launchers and the wall bounces and his big fierce punch and stuff. That had that unique like Guile-esque, the new Guile-esque perfect timing, but a lot of it just didn't go anywhere. Where I'm just like, I'm either missing something, or he didn't really have great confirms either. He couldn't do like a medium to medium. His light attacks didn't really easily combo into DP or anything. So I was struggling a little bit. The thing is, he had like really good forward lunging buttons. So he's like the pressure lord, right? And he can really walk in and out of that space. And he plays a very similar game to Street Fighter V, but it is, once again, completely interrupted by parry and drive impact when you start committing to that stuff. So you're like, I got this game plan, it's going to work. Oh God, I can't do that anymore. I have to be careful.
That's not what I would expect you to have said initially, because he's being positioned as like a cover, like front box arc guy. And I thought you were, just right before you said it, you're going to be, oh yeah, he was like, really easy, kind of basic, but like, like a very, like everything kind of just works with him, and just, he doesn't have like a ton of stuff, because they want maybe like, Street Fighter, like new fans to just pick this cool looking MMA guy and just push some buttons and have some fun. But you're saying like, you mean like in a casual level, or more like an intermediate advanced, like he just doesn't have a lot of going on?
I think at a casual level, he'll probably be super fine, because punch things can feel sort of hard to stop. And if you're not utilizing game mechanics, he's just going to sort of do this stuff. And it's like, geez, he's charging his punch. What do I do? But he's the one character of all the characters where I was really wanting a training mode. And I was treating this arcade style, right, where I never fought against CPUs, like maybe like one round. I was only fighting against people. So I in some situations I got to look at move lists. So I just learned everything on the fly. And he's the one character where I was like, okay, I kind of wish I just like was able to sit down and just like really see how everything interacts with each other, because he's definitely, with all the perfect charging and all that kind of stuff and how his EX moves work, I'm like, this feels like necessary for this character.
Yeah, even the IGN posted. Oh, I think GameSpot posted a video of like CPU versus CPU level 8.
I
And
saw that.
CPU level 8 Luke did not do anything. Even the CPU didn't know what to do with Luke. Like Chung Li, Ryu, Jay, they showed it all off,
Nutty shit.
combos and everything, and then Luke just didn't do anything. And I'm like, bro, did they not fix him or
He
whatever?
did a bunch of taunts. That's all he
Luke's
did.
best thing was
CPU
like
Luke.
button launcher into level
that was
1.
it.
And that
Yeah,
was
that was
it.
Yeah, that was like the one thing I kept seeing over and over. And it'd be really funny, Max. They're like, "All right, Max, you can have time to train," and they lock you into a room, and you're stuck on training stage the entire time.
Yeah, I'm stuck on the grid.
You're like sending the devs your video. Like, I hate this.
There was a very funny moment where I asked them that at the end of my interview.
I was going to ask if you asked that.
Of course I did. So I just mentioned it, and I was just like, if there could be consideration for this. I was very polite about it. And then the guy translated it, and the devs all started laughing with each other, and they translated back, and they're like, "Don't worry, we saw the video."
Really amazing.
So they already apparently the video already made the rounds over at HQ.
So like that, for people that don't know, it's just a simple ask of like, please allow Street Fighter training like stages to be picked on any stage, not just training stage, because it's been that way since 4 now, right? You can only train on training stage.
The gripe is that the grid, right? The Street Fighter 4 training stage, the grid has been used in so many fighting games since 2010 that they all start to kind of bleed together. And if you were on Twitch looking at KOF next to Street Fighter, next to MBCI, next to any other game that has like a grid-like stage, they all sort of bleed in together and look very similar. My battle is against the grid, not just training stages, because even like MVC 3 has pretty good training stages that look different. I'm cool with that. The grid is my issue. And yes, we've already seen some stuff that Street Fighter 6 most likely has, or it does have a grid. It's actually in the move lists. You see the characters doing the moves on the grid. My personal hope is that, yes, let's make the grid just for training. Just make that the thing that you use for training stage. And when you actually have to fight matches, you have to fight matches on other stages. People will eventually come across their own competitive stages. That'll just happen, where something just works great. It happened in Guilty Gear, where there's like 2 or 3 stages everyone uses in Guilty Gear Strive now. We get some lag, and this ultimately is a dev issue. The reason this happens is because some stages lag up, and it's an issue between consoles. Yep. So in any of those situations where they don't have grids, right, where they do not have their training stage to easily select, in Killer Instinct, the same thing, they always default to a couple stages that work out great for competitive. That'll happen again with Street Fighter 6 if training stage stays on training mode. That'll just happen again. And that once again fixes the problem that at least you're seeing something that isn't just the grid for another 10 years.
Well, yeah, and like that's why even like MK, like X and MK11 and KI, they're like, let's have a grid, but let's let you customize your grid with stuff that doesn't affect like lag or whatever, like the holograms, whatever it is, music. Essentially, it's all you really have to do. But like, I would like it to they I don't know, make an April Fool's prank in 2023 where they're like, all the stages have been replaced with grid. That'd be good.
That'd be a funny joke.
Is there anything else that you're wondering about the hands-on, Justin, or do you think we're good for today?
I think we're good. That was a lot of information.
Too. Yeah. How was there anything that you kind of felt was like, would like to see that changed, or is it just a little bit too early where you can even say that yet?
I still feel like I would really like level 1 special to super cancels, which aren't there. The way the system works now is that the more meteor you spend, the more opportunities that open up for you to get unique combos with supers. If you do a level 1, you can't. You can like juggle into it in some situations, like where you low fireball, low forward EX fireball. You can juggle into level 1, but it's a tight link of buffering that out. But canceling into moves happens at level 2. And I think at level 2, this might be universal. I don't know. You have to do an EX move, and you can cancel the EX move into at least your level 2 or level 3. Okay, cool. Okay. So that opens up a little bit. And then level 3, when you have it, you can just the sky's the limit, right? Any special move can't, like DP into Shin Shoryuken, like low forward fireball Shin Shoryuken, any of that works because level 3s have like the most cancelable window. It sort of like lines up with their design thing where it's like, yeah, the more you spend, the more opportunities you get, like kind of thing, which makes sense. I just like to do low forward fireball super, you know.
That's
that's
your
thing.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Let me do my third strike.
Yeah, a little bit. And I feel like parries are good at the start, but definitely end up being a situation where they are like almost super risky, where you take so much damage from missing one, right? And the ways out seem very specific. I don't think it needs to be buffed or nerfed, but it'll definitely come down to a point in this version of the game where they will be used very haphazardly. And I think that's kind of what they want. Like eventually, when people understand the game a bit, they'll be used in some situations and not like all the time, because if there's anything we know about fighting game players, they don't want to take any risks. You want to play your fighting game with the least amount of options that put you in a bad position. So like all of these things sound like these all have risk reward, but at the same time, it's like, I know when you play a fighting game at a high level and you want to take no risk, right? There should be no situations where you put yourself in a bad state. So at that point, is the game going to eventually turn back into like, you know, nobody's really using OD moves unless it's for EXs or V reversal, and that's very like Street Fighter 5-ish? I don't know, maybe. So there was a lot of stuff that felt like interesting, and I see what they're going for. But at the same time, it is the first version of the game, right? When people aren't using things enough or using them too much, they're probably going to toe them down or adjust them in certain ways. And as players that are like watching this shit, or me that is like, you know, getting the chance to play it very early, it's a while from release. A lot of this individuality between all these moves is going to go through a development process. So don't get super attached and pass judgment like immediately right now. Street Fighter 6 has a long way to go, and we're eventually going to see where it ends up.
Cool. All right. So I think that concludes our epic 2-part Street Fighter 6 back-to-back podcast. I think next week we'll be resuming with regularly scheduled shenanigans. I think it's something that a couple of you suggested in the comments. If you have enjoyed, well, quote unquote, enjoyed fighting game movies and media of the past.
They're the best.
What are you talking about? There's so many good ones. You can look forward to that next week on TripleKO.
We are waiting for the Dark Souls of fighting games. Let us have it. We're ready.
Soul Edge has nothing on a lightsaber. Like, I'm sorry.
James Earl Jones comes back.
No!
Oh no! Oh!
I don't think kids trade games anymore. I need that sense of accomplishment, and it wasn't there. And I think that was a major flaw.
The way they engineer these is just phenomenal.
As much as you're into like the comics, I was very into the toys, so I was on like the message board all the time.